So if we're good to go, I'll go ahead and get started. Okay, so my name is Robyn McGlotten. I am a co-host of the Diversity Issues podcast. We generally talk about diversity in indie comics, but we do also often branch off from that and talk about pop culture in general, but our primary focus is indie comics. And my panel for you today is diverse comics for kids. So mainly I will be sharing with you some suggestions of comics and also some resources for how to find comics and graphic novels geared towards kids and middle grade readers and teens. Alrighty, so starting out, I'm going to talk about different imprints, book publishers. So everyone is probably familiar with what we call the big two, which is DC Comics and Marvel Comics. So DC Comics actually has a specific imprint just for kids. It used to be called DC Zoom, but now they just call it graphic novels for kids. And I have links to all of these pages, which once these are posted, I'll try to provide the links as well so that everyone can reach these pages directly. But they having this specific imprint, they kind of take the guesswork out of it. Anything under this imprint, is appropriate for kids ages 8 to 12, which is who the imprint is geared towards. And here I've got some pictures of two of my favorite graphic novels under that imprint. They also have an imprint for young adults, and these are for primarily high school, 8th graders and up. And these are ones with themes that are a little bit more serious. Some of them do have curse words, mild curse words, things like that. So if that's something that you're concerned about for your students, for your kids, I would suggest reading them beforehand, especially if they're on the younger side, say 13 or so. I've read many of these. I think there were only like 2 where I saw a curse word in there, and it, in my view, wasn't anything that was incredibly distracting to where you would think that the kid was being like heavily influenced or anything with language or something like that that may be of a concern. These are just some more examples of some of the graphic novels for young adults. With DC, they do have some original characters. Like for instance, in the story Galaxy is a brand new character that was created for that specific graphic novel. The Mr. Miracle is an existing character who was reimagined for this novel. But these 3 on the right-hand side, Nubia, Cassandra Cain, Batgirl, and Jessica Cruz, Green Lantern, are all existing DC characters. So they exist outside of this imprint, but these specific stories were created to kind of share a wide teen experience. Marvel Comics, in my view, this is completely my opinion, has, in my opinion, a wider variety of characters that would kind of hit that middle grade reader, YA reader, but they don't have specific imprints like DC does. So in this slide, I just put here 2 characters because generally for DC, you would look for the imprint. For Marvel, you would more so look for the character. So Moon Girl is a character that would probably work really well for middle grade readers and even a bit younger. She herself is 8 years old, so maybe 3rd, 4th graders would enjoy her stories. Unstoppable Wasp is also one that would likely work for middle grade readers, but they had both of those were with ongoing series. So you can read them in collected editions, graphic novels, or you can read them in single comic edition as well. And actually, Moon Girl has an ongoing event right now where she's kind of bouncing through the Marvel universe and teaming up with different hero groups. So there's a Moon Girl and Miles Morales one shot. There's a Moon Girl and X-Men one shot, and there will be a couple more under that as well. So these are a couple ones where they have specific original graphic novels as opposed to single issues that were then later collected into trade paperback form. So these only ever existed as original graphic novels. And the good things about these is like you can just pick up the book and go. You don't have to worry about trying to figure out where the other issues are, or even to try to figure out as much background on the character. The characters are, this is of course an estimation, generally popular enough that most people are familiar with the basics of their story, that they could just pick these up and go. You don't have to worry about trying to figure out what's going on in the stories. So these are some other Marvel characters. A general rule of thumb, but not always the case, is if the character is a teenager, then the book is likely okay for teenagers. That is though a sliding scale. I personally feel that the Miss Marvel character can skew to where it would be okay reading for a slightly younger character. Some of the other teenagers have slightly more mature themes, so you probably would want to stick with specifically that teenager mark. These covers that I selected for the slide was deliberate because Marvel has a specific format in which they have released collections for their teen characters. Generally, graphic novels for Marvel will have anywhere from 4 to 6 single issues collected and bound in a trade paperback form. And the price point is usually between $15 and $18. But this particular format is a little smaller in height, but it's thicker because it has pretty much twice as many issues. There are generally between 10 and 12 issues collected in these editions, and the price point is always $12.99. So for teachers trying to stock their classroom libraries, for parents getting books for their teachers, I definitely suggest this format because you get more bang for your buck. Unfortunately, America Chavez doesn't have one in this format for her, but these other characters do, and it does stretch out to other characters as well. I know Hawkeye has some, Peter Parker has some, Squirrel Girl, who I love, also has some collected in that format as well. Another publisher that really does a good job of providing graphic novels for middle grade readers is Oni Press. So they have a lot of diverse themes, including LGBTQIA characters, characters of color, and a lot of their stories are just really fun stories that any kid could relate to, any kid can connect with. They do also have a few that talk about dealing with emotions and mental health. For example, Pilu of the Woods is one that would fall in that category, but is done in a way that really kind of makes sense for younger readers. Oni Press also puts out quick and easy guides. They're very small, digestible books, but these are definitely ones that are for teens, older teens, probably 14, 15, in that age range, but they answer general questions around identity and sexual orientation, things like that. So I wanted to include these because I think that I know that sex education is something that kids are getting in their teenage years, and this is a way to kind of bolster those curriculums and also to support LGBTQIA identities within those curriculums as well. So another imprint that I really like that has a lot of options for diverse characters is Boom Studios. So they have two imprints, Kaboom and Boombox, but some of their works also do fall under the primary Boom Studios imprint as well. And I won't go through each of these, but these are some of my favorites, fun stories featuring diverse characters. So another important resource that I wanted to just make people aware of is called Back Matter. And it's generally book commentary. Not every book has this, but some do. And it is, in my opinion, a great source for connecting specific themes that are shared in books and how they connect to real world issues, how they connect to history. I included 3 here that have back matter. For the one in the upper left, home, it is specifically a teacher's guide that talks about immigration. On the right, Bitterroot, it was originally printed as single issues, and each specific issue has an essay from a different scholar that talks about the history that goes specifically into that book. That one in particular is set during the Harlem Renaissance, so there's a lot of historical context within that book. Superman Smashes the Klan is also another one that has a lot of historical context. It was written by Gene Lin Yang, and I absolutely love his work. And that one does have back matter as well in that one. Looks like we have a question. Can we share the slideshow? So unfortunately, I do not know how to do that. I apologize, but I will try to make sure that after the presentation that this does get shared so that you guys have access to all the pictures and all of the links as well. Sorry about that. Alrighty, so other resources. So specifically, how do you find new titles? So Previews World is a publication that is specifically to talk about new comics coming up that will be distributed through Diamond Comics, which for a long time was the primary comics distributor. So this tells you everything. It doesn't, that is distributed by Diamond Comics. It doesn't separate out specifically kids comics, but there is a way to get specifically to kids comics. And so as part of Previews, they have a kids comics website. And this one I scrolled down a little bit to show you the section that has comics and graphic novels. And generally, if you hover over any specific title, it will give you a little snippet about that book, and you can click on it to see more. Alrighty, so it looks like we got some. Okay, second that Q&A. Another thing that I like about Previews World, if the distributor has provided it, sometimes you can also get a small preview of a comic or graphic novel that you can read through, and you can decide whether or not it is something that you want for your classroom. I would also very much encourage teachers to tap into your local library as well as resources, because then you can read the full graphic novel before deciding whether or not it's something that you want to buy for your classroom. This example that I have here is an older one, so it's available, but also for ones that are upcoming, you can use this as a resource to learn a little bit about and read a little bit of a comic or graphic novel before it's available. Alrighty, so Penguin Random House has recently also moved into distributing comics as well. Marvel uses them as their primary comics distributor. So when you go to their site, if you click on publishers, it'll show you the various publishers that are available through them. And as you can see, I've kind of highlighted, they specified 2 imprints that are specifically for children and young readers. So you know you're getting appropriate content there. And I also highlighted here Nobrow, which also, as a publisher, has a lot of books that also hit that age range mark. So we've got a question from an attendee. Are there any good apps for finding and lending e-copies of graphic novels, comics, and manga? So I generally use Hoopla, which is connected to my local library. As far as I know, most libraries use Hoopla and Libby to share ebooks in general. Predominantly, Hoopla is the place for graphic novels, comics, and manga. Libby does sometimes have graphic novels and manga, but at least for my local library, and I think this is true for most libraries as well, most of that content is found on Hoopla. The selection varies from library to library because each library does have to pay for a license to license each book, and the licensing works different between the two. So for Libby, it's a pay per copy license. So it works similarly to physical book where your library you have 2 copies, you have 3 copies, you have 4 copies. And if all 3 copies are checked out, you have to be put on the holds list, the wait list, and wait until another copy comes available. Once it does, you can go into the Libby app and download that book to read that ebook there. For Hoopla, they pay for a general license. And so there's no waiting, an unlimited license. So there's no waiting for a specific book. If the book is available, you can get it immediately, but you are limited to the number of books that you can check out per month through Hoopla. So for instance, my local library, our limit is 5. So with Libby, I can check out as many books as I want, as long as that book is available. I'm on the wait list. I get a book. I have up to 10 that I can have out at a time. I want to get another one, I return one, I can check out another one. With Hoopla, our limit is 5. So once I've checked out 5 in a month, then my personal cap for that month through my library is used up. So that's what I would recommend for apps for lending, borrowing graphic novels, comics, and manga. Some paid apps that do have a lot of content. I like Scribd for comics and graphic novels. They recently got a license with both Boom and Image. So especially for indie comics, they have a lot of content available on the Scribed app, but it is $10 a month subscription fee, but it's for the most part unlimited. You can check out and read as many as you want, and they also have ebooks and audiobooks. And for manga, they do have Shonen Jump has an app that people can use to check out manga, but again, they do have a monthly fee, and I think that fee is $2 a month to be able to read unlimited manga. They do have a good selection of ones that you can read the first few chapters. Or that was a long-winded answer to that question. Alrighty, so for the next slide, going back to PRH, they do provide catalogs similar to previews that talk about the upcoming comics and graphic novels that they have available. So as I mentioned before, they are the primary distributor for Marvel. So they have the Marvel catalog that you can read through them. And then they have their panels catalog, which is other comics and graphic novels that they will have available as a distributor. So with PRH, and this isn't true for every title, but I did find that it is primarily true for their younger reader books. They have here the age range. So you at least get a general sense of whether or not these books would be appropriate for your readers. Lunar Distribution is the distributor for the primary distributor for DC Comics. In my personal view, Marvel does have a higher number of comics that come out on a general basis that are appropriate for middle grade readers. But as we talked about before, DC does have those two imprints, the one for kids and the one for young adults. And you would learn about new and upcoming ones through their DC Connect. Lunar does also distribute other comics, which you can see through their next phase previews as well. And then they do at times have previews similar to what we saw in PRH, where you can, and in previews where you can click on a title and read the first few pages of an upcoming book. So some other general resources to just learn about, what diverse fiction is out there. Those first few ones were distributors, like we mentioned, so that's what's coming up. These next few are ones that talk about books that already exist out in the ether. So the BIPOC bookshelf is for books that feature Black, Indigenous, and people of color as the main characters. So this is a general bookshelf. It isn't specifically just for graphic novels, but you can sort it to filter on graphic novels. So as you can see here, I clicked on middle grade in the age category and then graphic novels, and it will show you a list of the graphic novels that they have in their database. So this is run by a small web developer. I think she's like, it's one person or like a team of two. So she's constantly updating titles on the back end herself and takes inputs from volunteers of new titles that are coming out that she constantly updates in this bookshelf. The other one is LGBTQ Reads. So it's similar, but more so in just straight web page form. So to find content that features LGBTQIA characters, you would click on illustrated work, and then you would need to scroll down to the middle of the page where it says graphic novel. So these are actually two images. Get out the middle where to just show where it's scrolled down to where you can see graphic novels. So the other one is spreadsheet that I keep. This is my personal spreadsheet that I do share when I come across just people who are asking about it. I read a lot, as you can see, and I was coming across a lot of same questions of people asking for specific titles. So I put the categorizations that I thought were most relevant. So of course the title, author, illustrator, the genre, the grade and age range for the book, and the identity of the protagonist. For some, they have, so like for instance, you can see I have um, Lumberjanes is blank. It is an ensemble cast with a diverse group of girls, so there isn't one protagonist. For Sanity and Tallulah, it is set in the future on a space station, so it isn't specified that this person is Black, Southeast Asian, what have you, but they have what we would typically consider diverse features. So that is why they're included there, but that line is blank. And I'll also share the link to this spreadsheet as well. The last couple things I wanted to share were events. That come up featuring comic books that are national events. So hopefully there's one in your area that would be hosted by your local comic shop. So the first is Free Comic Book Day. It's always the first Saturday in May. And basically, for the major publishers, Marvel and DC, a lot of times what they'll do is they'll reprint a special edition of a diverse title they've already printed or of one that is coming up soon. Sometimes if they have uh, a graphic novel that's coming up, they'll have a preview book for that. So most of these others are actually not the preview books. So they're about the size of a comic. They're like between 20 and 22 pages to show the first part of what will then be a graphic novel that will soon be released. But it's the way for you to get your hands on, early copies of books that are coming out. Another thing that you can potentially do, the comic shop where I work, we try to do this as well. If we have extras left over from that day, we try to get these into the hands of public school teachers in our area. So if there's a comic shop in your area that does host Free Comic Book Day, I would definitely recommend that you can reach out to them and ask if they have extras, which titles they have, and if they would be willing to provide those to you for your classrooms. There's also Halloween Comics Fest. It's generally the Wednesday before Halloween, but some shops do wait until that Saturday because Wednesday is new release day for comic books. So it's generally kind of hectic to have an event on a Wednesday. And also Saturdays are generally easier for families to come out. Halloween Comics Fest is generally not as big as Free Comic Book Day, but it is available. And on their website, they do make digital versions of the comics available to people online. Alrighty, well, that is it for my presentation. If anyone has any questions, please let me know. Oh, I did forget to mention, that is the web link for my podcast, diversityissues.libsyn.com. So feel free to give us a listen.
Robyn, this is Nicole. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you so much for having me.
And I will wrap it up and click the end, Robyn, unless you would like to. We will stop recording.
Oh, sure. I just saw a message from David Greenfield. He said he has a couple resources. I would absolutely love that. I'm not sure the best way if we can connect outside of this, or if you have something you wanted to share in the chat, I would love that. And so, Nicole, these are going to be posted on YouTube, right? And we can add comments there. Is there a way for us to connect directly with people outside of that? What would make sense there, do you think?
Well, Tracy Edmonds, our event organizer, is, I believe, participating. So I'm not sure if she's able to be on mic right now, but she may be able to type in the chat to make that information available on how people can access this. But I do believe that we'll, if she's not able to type that in right now, it's my understanding that if you go to the event website, everyone who registered to participate will have access to view the recordings later.
Okay, and then we can try to get contacts there, and I'll try to get in direct contact with David Greenfield. But also, David, I'll let you know, I'll put in the chat our email for my podcast, and if you can send those there, I would love to add those to my resource list. Thank you so much for sharing. We have another question from an anonymous attendee. You often have kids asking you to order specific books to carry. So I primarily connect with teachers and librarians and school librarians in my area, and a lot of times they do tell me that they have specific books that the teachers that the students, I'm sorry, do ask them to carry. A lot of times it's manga. They've been telling me that their kids do like manga, and that's also something that you can likely get through your local comic book shop. You can get some through Scholastic and Penguin, and I would also to encourage some of you guys to reach out. I know that teachers and librarians get a discount through Scholastic, but for comics and graphic novels that aren't carried through Scholastic, sometimes your comic book shop may be willing to offer you a discount if you're an educator. So I would definitely suggest reaching out that way. And then in terms of other specific diverse books, I find that, kids and teachers have the same problems that everyone else. They don't know what is available until it's provided to them. Some of the librarians that I've talked to before, a lot of the Marvel characters that are age appropriate, I'm really glad that they have young reader ones for like Miles Morales and Black Panther, because those movies have been really popular and they're characters that kids can connect to. And sometimes too, the teachers tell me that they find that a kid, just like adults, may not know that they're interested in a specific book until they actually see the book. So a lot of times they will use the books that their kids are asking for and try to find ones that have a similar theme to try to increase the diversity of what they're offering in their classrooms and libraries. Alrighty, and I also, of course, I also put our email address in the chat. So David, if you want to send your resources our way, we greatly appreciate it.
All right, if that covers all of the questions, I will end the panel. And thank you again.
Thank you guys so much for having me.